There we go. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Red Morning on this wonderful Saturday. What is it now? The 19th of October. Today, we're still on day 53 of Where the Heff is Carl Gone? He's still recovering. He's getting better. Well wishes to the Manosphere, as well as wishing there were fewer Spurgs in there. How's everybody doing this morning? I just realized I'm going to do a big faux pas after all this on my one checks. I forgot to plug in the network here to get some better quality. So we're going to go silent for about 15 seconds. There we go. Typical. In some random thread, they've just entered me in some weird who's the best boomer contest. I think I just won it right there. And yes, something that a Caesar can fix. That's the one thing. So I haven't had a Caesar since I was last on with Carl. Until he gets back, I'm probably going to avoid drinking them from then on. Once you see me crack open one there, you'll know how's it going. Carl is coming back. I figured today we're going to talk about something that's valuable for you guys. It's something, I'm going to tell a little bit of a story first here. I've noticed since becoming and for lack of a better word, content creator. It's not really that I'm creating content. It's just that I'm communicating content. Trying to build a business around the idea of men improving their lives. Hopefully there's more money in it. There isn't selling shit to soccer moms. So we'll see what happens. But since that time, I've had no opportunities to consume content from other creators. I have a hell of a time, even finding the time to read through posts by Carl or Rolo. At best, I sometimes catch snippets of Before the Train Wreck with Dr. Smith and Rich, of course. It's a good thing, too, because I've noticed I can see why Cernovich said he had to get out of the Manosphere a couple of years back, because it's a very inbred sort of group. And I don't mean that in a biological sense. I just mean that it's turning into comedians talking about airline food. And it's kind of annoying because it doesn't really help you guys. Aside from that, it actually degrades the purpose of the space in general. Now, I get some people don't care. Some people just want to be entertained. They want to hear Meghan Markle did something to the prince. They want to hear that somebody did this, somebody did that, and I'm as guilty as the next guy because that stuff's damn engaging. But at the end of the day, if you don't have something worthwhile coming from it, then it's really just a time sink and you're better off just drinking. At least drinking is fun and can be more social. A big hello to the chat, guys. Awesome engagement here. Don't forget, smash the like button and subscribe, all that good stuff. Anyways, this is Morning to One Man's Way, Jimmy Bob, Jim Sauce, Filbert, Dimitri Forster, Conk, always good to see, Tawanga K. Hey, he's from the UK. Nice. It's 2 p.m. here. How about that? I know exactly what you need, Ryan. Thank you, Edgar. Top of the morning, Conk. Good morning. All right, guys. Ryan is with an I. I know it's a small thing, but I kind of take a little bit of pride in that. I actually found out why it was spelled that way. It's because when I was born, my mom asked my dad what we should name me. And he said, I want Ryan. She goes, oh, okay. How do you want to spell that? He goes, spell that however you want to. So she decided to spell it in that messed up way just to kind of give him a jab. So it's kind of funny. Yeah, I wish I could say this is like a better story that I could tell, but there's much better ones I could tell. That's probably the simplest one. But it does illustrate something about game. I've noticed a lot of guys ask about how to tell better stories, how to become a better storyteller. It comes up all the time on the Patreon Q&A for the private community. And I see a lot of you guys are from that private community, so always good to see you here out in public as well. It's one of those weird stories. So if somebody sees the way my name is spelled, it generally, begs the question, well, why do you spell it that way? Is that like, what's your ethnicity? Here's another funny one too. So when I get where are you from? And it's funny because I always know what it means. That somebody wants to ask, why am I brown? But they don't want to seem like a racist. So they go, oh, well, that's cool. Where are you from? And I'll naturally tell them, well, I mean, I live in Toronto now, but I was in Montreal and then Victoria before that. And I'm originally from Alberta. They're like, and where are your parents from? I'm like, oh, well, I'm pretty sure my mom was from a small town in Alberta called Athabasca, and my dad was from Regina, Saskatchewan. She goes, and then it's the same thing every time. So they play this weird dance where they know what they're trying to ask, and I know what they're trying to ask, but I'm making them say it. And they'll say something, and they'll be, okay, what about your ancestors? Where are they from? Like, well, best I can tell, it's mostly Western Europe. So Irish, English, German. I think some Portuguese. And then they still act a little confused. And then it was like, oh, and finally I just go, are you asking why I'm brown? And they kind of sigh of relief. Oh, thank God. Okay, yeah. I don't know. I always tell them the story about, so my dad, if you guys, I've posted a picture on him once or twice on here, I think, which is hilarious. And he's a very white guy, freckles, redhead, the whole thing. My mom's dark, but her biological family are all white, redheaded, freckles. So for the most part, I'm just, I mean, I understand why I have melanin, but going by the family tree, it makes no sense, but I'll leave that one there. But enough talking about meats and telling some good stories. I'll maybe slip in some ones from now and again. Best examples I can think of then of how to add some story time in here to teach guys how to tell some more engaging stories. I'll just start peppering mine in where I find them to be relevant. I figured one of the topics I really wanted to talk about today was Archwinger. And if anybody's been here a half a minute, they'll probably know who he is. For those who don't, Archwinger is one of the OG original guys, or OMGs, they call them, old married guys, of the Red Pill and the Married Red Pill. You have if you want to find out if somebody is red pilled or not, ask them about Archwinger. And if they know what you're talking about, you can tell they've at least been around a minute. They've at least done their homework, and they know generally some of the players, because he's one of the most well-known and least advertised names in the space. And it behooves you to take some quick time on Reddit while it's still up, or trp.red. I believe the forums are coming up next month. Thank God. And go through some of his stuff. His general story is he was a guy in a dead bedroom of a marriage, very disrespectful wife, and he was documenting his journey on how to get his balls back. Now, I wish I knew how the ending of the story went. Things always look to be getting better and better. He's always had a bit of a chip on his shoulder from it, which makes sense. I mean, after you have a family with somebody, you put your all into it, and they've been a right battle axe for about 10 years. Like, you don't just scrub that stuff off right away. But he's doing that. I'm staying with it for the kids' things as best I can tell. Now, why am I talking about Archwinger? It's because I'm going to do some Masterpiece Theater. We're going to read probably one of my favorite, well, not one of my, it's one of my favorite, all of them are my favorite, Archwinger posts, where he talks about red pill as behavior, not philosophy. For those who don't know, some Spurg decided to release a hit piece, takedown, critique, I'm not even sure what it is, of the red pill, where he calls it the love child between feminism and pickup artists, which wouldn't be so bad, except for the fact that he doesn't really say anything. I can basically show you Royce's article about the triteness of hate, and you're going to see every point he made in there going down the list. And that was done in 2014. But as somebody on the TRP Red platform stated, he's charging more than The Way of Men, and with half the size of the book. So unless these 99 pages really wow me, the guy owes me a beer. I'm not going to read it. I can't be bothered. I already know he's part of that Florida camp. So I guarantee you it's just going to be some nonsense. I would read the Bruno part introduction to it, but then I would just end up dunking on it with another video. And right now I'm not hurting for content, so I don't have to dunk on unattractive men here to get some views on YouTube. Thank you for hitting like and subscribe. Smash that like button. But now to the point that's for you guys. Red pill as behavior, not philosophy. And he quotes, "My theory of the day. What if the whole issue behind this red pill phenomenon isn't whether red pill behaviors work or not? What if the real issue behind those red pill behaviors change in someone's life? What outcomes are the same, which are better, and which are worse depending on a man's behaviors?" Let's start with a couple of givens from the internet. About half of women will admit cheating on a man at some point in their life. About half of marriages end in divorce. So let's just assume, for the sake of argument, that if you meet a woman, there's about a 50% chance she's going to cheat on you, and or the two of you are going to end up divorced. Also a 50% chance she'll never cheat on you, and your marriage will withstand the test of time. Now, if you approach this woman and don't use any red pill behaviors, you're shy, you watch her from across the room, it takes you all night to work up your courage to talk to her. Lucky for you, she thinks that's kind of cute and charming. You stumble over your words and manage to tell her that she thinks, or you think, she's pretty. You buy her a drink, then two, you exchange phone numbers. The next day, you call her, eager friends with her for 3 years, hanging out, doing all kinds of fun things together. Her feelings eventually grow, and you start dating for real. You end up married to your best friend. Hooray. 2 years later, you learn that she's been cheating on you for the past 6 months, maybe longer. You accuse her, she admits it, says she's not happy and hasn't been for a long time. She files the next week. The red pill has a field day proclaiming that if you had been less of a timid, nice guy and actually taken control of your relationship, that this never would have happened. Everyone else says this girl was just a bitch. You got unlucky finding this one, but don't let it get you down. You'll meet another one, get married, and this time it lasts because you had a 50-50 shot. And this time, statistics went your way. Because it's a 50-50 shot, we have no way of knowing if this guy's non-red pill behavior cost him his first marriage, or if he just drew a bad girl. If the guy had undertaken red pill behaviors instead, and the first marriage went fine, we'd have no way of knowing if the red pill worked for him, or if he just got lucky with one of the 50% of the good ones. Now, if 99% of marriages worked, or 99% failed, and the red pill produced a noticeable statistical difference, we'd be on to something. But in a world where half of women cheat, half of marriages end in divorce, it's just not possible to tell whether any one set of behaviors is affecting anything. Because a red pill hater could just as easily say this was a 50-50 shot, and being a red pill man or Mr. Nice Guy Blue Pill just determines how big of a dick you are. What we do know, however, is that a lot of women don't like non-masculine nice guy men, at least not in an overtly sexual way. A few do. We know that a lot of people don't like red pill guys acting like jerks, at least not in the long term, but some do. It's fair to say there's a certain type of woman who's going to go home with a red pill guy and turn down every blue pill guy who walks up to her. And if you're not doing red pill behaviors, you've got no shot. For clarification, he puts, the red pill behaviors mean being fit, successful, confident, acting valuable, and not giving the woman special attention or validation. If a guy in his head assumes a whole bunch of negative things about women, that just helps him be more confident when he banters with the woman. We'll assume for this example, the guy is not being an overt asshole and telling the woman she and all women are cheating slut whores, like the 1% of red pill posters everybody likes to make fun of. I believe he just called out half the manosphere. It's equally fair to say there are probably some women out there who will turn you down at the first sign of any of those behaviors. So what if the red pill isn't some magic formula that works or doesn't work? What if it's viewed more as a set of behaviors and assumptions that will make you more successful with a certain type of woman and possibly less successful with others? But that's what red pill men really are after anyway. If you want to be successful with a 22-year-old, extremely attractive bar slut who's going to go home with you that night, or the next night at the latest, and you're not looking to get married ever, and you want to date 6 women just like them at once, none of whom pressure you for commitment, you'll be 10 times more successful if you go after this with a red pill attitude, even though you might be turning off and chasing away other types of women. Likely, if you turn that red pill stuff off and act normal, and it's debatable how normal and abnormal some RP stuff is, a lot of it's just plain Jane confidence. You'll be primed to attract a whole different type of woman at the expense of never attracting the type of woman that red pill guys get. So what if red pill isn't wrong or right, and it doesn't work or not work? What if it's just a set of behaviors that changes the type of women you attract and the type of relationships you form? This is stuff that I really wish. It's why you only see really good red pill critique from within. And this kind of cuts to the core of why you'll see me writing articles like vetting doesn't work, boundaries do, or there are no good women, there are no bad women, there are just women, and women act as crappy as you let them. For the most part, behaviors are designed for more deliberate control of your life. I know you've heard it. I've done tons of videos. They sound very very wishy-washy, very preachy, saying, you know what, you find out what you want in life, or at least remove what you don't want in life, and then move forward unapologetically towards that. That's really the goal of all this stuff. Now, if you're a guy who's under 30 and you're just out to, get up a notch count until the point where you don't really care about your notch count anymore, like so many of the trads and MGTOWs want you to, then yeah, what you should be doing is pulling out your best fuckboy attitude, style, behaviors, qualities, because those are the kind of women you're going to attract. If you want to sleep with a girl on the first date, act like a guy who sleeps with a girl on the first date. It's fun, and you'll filter for the kind of girls that want that. The kind of girls who don't want that are the ones that are in their mid 30s to mid 40s on Twitter complaining about how that's not going to attract a real man because a real man is dependable and takes after my kids. And that's why there's a bit of a split between the red pill single and the red pill married. It's not because men are different. It's not because women are different. It's not because philosophies are different. It's because the type of women that each man is focused on is different. I'm sure you've all seen Rollo's, where is his epiphany phase chart. If you're listening to this one on Spotify, Anchor.fm, or iTunes, I'm not actually showing the chart right now. Anybody who's listening to this has probably watched The Rational Male. If not, you'll see his epiphany phase chart, where it shows how girls go through different stages of their life. In their 20s is when they want to waste their 20s having fun with as many hot, attractive men as possible. In their 30s is when they look to settle down and start a family. In their 40s is a resurgence called the epiphany phase, where they look to capitalize on the success they had in their 20s while in their 40s, aka the cougar phase, and so on and so on. So depending on the age demographic you're working with here, you want to just filter the type of girls you want. Now, if you want a relationship, and a lot of guys do, and they want it way too young, but here's the thing. It behooves a guy to get in a relationship with a girl that's in her early 20s. Why? Because if you get in a relationship with a girl who's got the baby rabies in her 30s, she's going to be on a clock. She's not looking to get to know you. She's not looking to like you. She's looking that I want a family and I need you to get it. In the military, we had a thing called Insta families, and it was the funniest phenomenon ever. We would go on a sail. We called it the Esquimalt 500 because we always just did the Straits of Juan de Fuca. They're very challenging. And when you're training officers for navigation, it's one of the best places to give them the training they need. Problem is, it sucks as a working sailor because your foreign ports involve Vancouver and back home. Occasionally, they'll take you down to Prince George where you can watch the one single stripper in that town. I think they get one from Prince George to fly down just for us, which is kind of hilarious. And you'll see these ones where these guys, and we're sailing, like I said, you sail half the year. 1 month on, 2 weeks off, 1 month on, 2 weeks off, 1 month off, 1 month on, 3 months on a TJX task group exercise in October. This is essentially what brought me to pick up in the first place. With this kind of work schedule, you're only home 6 months out of the year. And out of those 6 months, you're working 2/3 or a third of that time. So the amount of free time you have is moot. And then how you choose to spend it is up to you. For me, I liked the idea of getting women, and it was frustrating as hell. And I don't have enough hours in the day to do all this whining and dining. And so the mystery method was wonderful because it allowed me to make better use of my time, tap into that 80s gamer culture I was part of as a kid, and gamify my dating life. And I thought it was awesome. But the point I was making on this story is the Insta family stuff. So a lot of guys would get in this situation, and instead of doing that, They just fell head over heels for the first girl who gave him any. They'd be at the Carlton Club, which is the closest club to the base, full of really trashy women. The kind of woman, they call them shack rats. They're looking for a sailor because he's got a steady paycheck and he's gone half the year. Excuse me. And once they get one, he keeps it. And here's the funny thing. So you'll see him come back from a sail, a single guy. Next month, you get ready to go on a better sail. He has a family dropping him off. And how did you get that family all of a sudden? He's, oh, I met this girl at the club and she's really into me. She thinks I'm the greatest thing ever. And she's got 2 kids. And it was always, oh. Everybody kind of cringed. Now, depending on how popular the girl was, often a couple coworkers would know her by name. Like, oh, hey, Melissa. Hey, how's it going? Hey, Sarah. Hey, how's it going? To which the guy, and it's embarrassing because the guy, for the most part, he kind of gets a very unfiltered idea of what's going on. She literally wasted her 20s fooling around with sailors, got knocked up by somebody who most likely got posted to Halifax. And now she's looking for the safe second choice. Actually, yeah, here's another story. This one is awesome. If you guys have been following, I had an email newsletter going on for a good year there. I'm probably going to start it back up. For those who don't know, that was me giving people snippets of the work that was coming to the book I have released, hopefully at the end of the year. It all depends how much I can buckle down, finish the second draft, and start getting edits out of the way. But there was this one single mom. I had, I think, a phase of 3 single moms. As far as I know, I've only ever dated 3 single moms. Horrible experience. Wouldn't recommend it. 2 out of 10. WNB. You can ask your internet Zoomers what that means. And I moved on, start teaching at Fleet School. At one point, one of my students were filling out a security clearance form so he can get his top secret clearance. And I asked him about his family. He mentions his wife. The wife had that name, and it's a very unique French name. So I'm like, oh, that's crazy. I used to know a girl that had this name. And I name her. And then like a coworker, oh yeah, I remember her. She was so much fun. And the third one, oh yeah, we used to do it too. And so we sit in the teacher's lounge with about 20 teachers doing this forums, and and we're all telling these great stories about how much fun it was to party with her, how cute her kid was, how her mom was a bit of a bitch. And then the guy sheepishly just kind of goes, yeah, that's my wife. And I think out of all the times I've been in that teacher's lounge, there was 2 times where it was quiet. And that was one of them. Could hear a pin drop. And I don't know how word managed to get around, but I guess the class have been ribbing him for the longest time saying, how does it feel to know that your instructor banged your wife? So yeah, Insta families. Now, this is a suboptimal strategy for guys. This is guys who just get what life gives them. And the kind of people who go for those guys who are that thirsty are the kinds that really run out of options themselves. If you don't have options, you'll take what you can get. And that seems to work both ways. Single moms, brand new sailors. It's a horrible mix. Probably a big factor as to why the divorce rate is as high as it is. Red pill behaviors, on the other hand, were stuff more akin to my side of the spectrum. Have fun with girls, enjoy your time with them, fool around, don't take it too seriously. And it was something I discovered when you're talking about, does it succeed, does it fail? Everybody's on a bell curve. We already know AWOLT. All women are like that. All women act in their best interest. All women look for the highest value man they can and then attempt to lock them down, slowly whittling away his self-confidence, then leaving him for another one, repeat ad nauseum. If you guys want to see the roadmap in action, that's David Franco's Practical Female Psychology. Awesome book. Great way of describing this thing. It also helps you get past the anger phase in that it's not a singular woman slighting you. It's just a biological impulse. It's like law of the universe. So, point I'm going with all this. What is the point I was going with all this? Insta families. Oh, yes. Red pill behaviors. So the red pill behaviors, under the assumption that what they do is they change your personality. Now I'm going to caveat that. They change your personality to attract the type of women that are more beneficial for you from a sexual strategy standpoint. You start acting aloof, you get in shape, you be fit, you start acting with abundance. Everything that a middle-aged soccer mom would call an asshole. And then you're going to notice that the kind of girls that are fun, early, mid-20s, they're the ones that start responding better to it because they're used to all kinds of thirsty guys their age who, and let's face it, most guys in their 20s, and especially in their 30s, but a lot in their 20s, are so timid and meek that just having a guy that unapologetically acts like himself is like catnip to a girl. So you start attracting these women. Now, here's the thing. These women aren't the same over time. You want to talk about vetting? These are just boundaries. And as you experience these women, you're going to see you're most likely going to have a chance to date a single mom at some point in your life if you have any sexual success. You're going to see for yourself how you do not like that. You're going to have a married girl sneak around on her husband with you, whether you know or whether you don't know. You're going to find out whether you do or don't like that. You're going to date fun girls that go on girls' nights out, that want to go to Cabo on the weekend. You're going to find out what you do and you don't like. You're eventually going to build yourself, I guess the best term for it is a soft harem. You're going to have a bunch of girls that you sleep with casually on rotation. And if you think this is a strange thing, it's not. This is exactly what attractive people have been doing since before the internet. There's always a core group of people. If you guys haven't seen it, it's Tyler Durden's The Secret Society thing. He builds it up with a lot of mystery and intrigue. That's just like my sister used to do that all the time when I was the little brother and I'd see the dudes and all that. It always weirded me out. Like, what do you guys do all day? And she goes, we just have sex or whatever. And I'm like, holy Jesus. But that's what guys were anyway. And so all that PUA was for was to inject yourself into that top 20% secret society kind of thing. Really wish I got to admit, we make our names way too hyperbolic. So it makes it sound like we're being kind of weird about it. But, so you get these behaviors, you start getting into the casual sex culture that's been around since at least the 60s. Although I have seen, was it absinthe bars, or it was a Victorian age thing where people were essentially diddling each other inside of these like certain bars. So they even had those kind of clubs back in the Victorian era, which is the most prudish time in human history, as far as I can tell. Maybe the Middle Ages. So this stuff always goes on. The only difference is now you're learning from a discrete set of steps how to become a part of it. And what you'll generally find with those behaviors is you're going to attract a lot of younger, more fun, sexually promiscuous women, of which most women are sexually promiscuous. The only difference is they're more openly towards you with that because they know you don't judge and that you may be a potential one day or soon or that night or on the second date at the very least, you know? And then these women start getting older. You start building your soft harem of plates. It's all these women. You've like, I used to date her. I used to date her. Yeah, she just broke up with a boyfriend. She called me to come over. There's these 3 girls I'm dating right now. They're looking for a husband, but while they want to have some fun, they come to me. You're going to start noticing as you get older, the demographics of these girls change. Your standards become way more refined. Like, you know what you want. All these guys talking about how they don't know what they want is because they haven't tried enough things to be able to tell themselves. So you'll start getting, 30, 35, 40, and maybe you're the guy who wants to settle down. Maybe you want to focus on something, and that time you spend dating is better spent elsewhere. Whatever. You're not only going to have a good selection of women who you've had a history with before to see which one would I like to promote. A girl that, same thing with my girl, like 19, I think is when I first started dating her, and 23, I'm like, you know what? Out of all the girls I've been with, this is one of the few that had any like appreciable skills other than sex and activity partnership. So I'm like, whatever. That's why I always joke around. If somebody asks like why I'm with her, like, what does she do that's so special? I just say she can drywall. Everybody thinks that's some flippant answer, but I'm going, how many girls do you know how to drywall? It's like 7 and 6 of them are married. So you got to take that, but it shows that there's value beyond just sexual. But I wouldn't have known that had I not plowed through a lot of girls in my time, and some of the worst ones. And by worst ones, I just mean ones that make suboptimal choices, because they don't, all women act like that. So this is really about it's not about whether red pill works or doesn't work. It's about changing your behavior in order to have a personality that's more amenable to the kind of women who you're going to have a better strategy with over the long term. Ooh, I see Drew's doing some chat on fitness in the chat too, which is awesome. So this is a good thing. And this is why I can tell when arguments are disingenuous, because they don't. Here, I'm going to give them a thing here. So when I see arguments about the red pill and it stricts to like people are bad, and I think the worst critique I've heard levied at guys is because we're not making things better, which I hate, because the world's kind of a bit of a gong show right now. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. And there's this trudge of tradcons, religious fundy types who are mad because some 23-year-old guy is not taking the weight of the world on his shoulders and fixing the garbage fire that the rest of the world created and dumped on his lap. I put this one over here. There we go. Yes, they were probably swinger clubs in Babylon. Been ignoring the chat for too long. Yes, and Drew is right. They did keep it quiet. Here's the one thing. If you learn nothing else from the red pill other than how to be attractive, once you're there, the one thing you should be able to learn above all else is discretion. If you can show that you're able to keep your mouth shut, not brag, and not treat it like it's a fancy thing and ruin people's reputations, you're going to find far more sexual success, far more, than if you just keep lifting weights, get stronger abs, and buy a Lamborghini. And I'll tell you why. Another Altmate Cad story. If you guys don't know, Altmate Cad is a guy who was before my time. Well, he started before my time. I had the pleasure of knowing him about halfway through his journey until he stopped posting. And it's one of my funniest stories about how he would go to parties. He basically cheated on his wife. Well, she cheated on him, lied about it, and he realized he had been kind of a fat schlub his whole marriage. And so he got his act together, but he couldn't really forgive his wife for that kind of betrayal. So he decided to open up the marriage one-sidedly, not tell her, and wait out the kids turning 18. Whether it works or not, I'll have to let you know. Hopefully he comes back before his last kid turns 18. I would be very curious to see how it turns out. But he found that he would have fun with some of the girls in the neighborhood. A lot of the married girls would sneak around on him, and then they would talk amongst themselves, a little bit of chatter. It's like, oh, I hear, and I think he put it, one girl he was dating, she goes, oh, I hear you're good friends with, such and such. Yeah, we should be good friends too. It was essentially his ability to be discreet ended up being an advertisement, and girls would actually look for him. Now, it's a bit of a degenerate lifestyle. I don't know if you want to go that route of sleeping with every married chick in your neighborhood, but the lesson to take from it is discretion matters. Here, Drew, I can answer this one for you. So if you want to quote people in StreamYard, all you do is you go to their comment in YouTube or in the StreamYard side panel, and you click the show button. And what you can do is if somebody says something fairly meaningful in the chat, you put it down below, it'll add the icon and show the chat there. For those of you who are listening to this one, Hector Soto has a great observation. This is next to impossible for all guys. I'm assuming he's referencing the ability to be discreet about who he's doing. Absolutely. And this goes to another point that most red pill guys should be aware of. It's that the top 20% is not an unreachable goal. You'll often see the wink, wink, second wave men going their own way talking about the Pareto principle. Well, why should I try when only the top 20% are getting any attention? First off, they've completely interpreted that statement wrong. What it means is 100% of the women want to get with the top 20% of men in whatever hierarchy they happen to be a part of. There's not a single sexual hierarchy. If that was the case, then in the States, Trump would be the alpha of alpha males. And we know there's plenty of girls who sleep with men that aren't Donald Trump and don't even want to. But they will sleep with the sexiest guy at the Hillary Clinton rally. But here's to Hector's point here. If you're that guy who's aiming to be top 20%, and that's, I don't want to say looks maxing, I want to say looks adequacy, but I can't think of a very catchy term for it. Just being attractive enough that it gets your foot in the door, that's all you need. You don't have to be super Chad. You have to be good looking enough that the girl responds positively when you approach. That's it. That's 7 out of 10 looks, 7 out of 10 body. Now, depending on where you live, if you live in Venice Beach, 7 out of 10 looks and body might be a little higher than normal, but that's a logistic problem. You move to where you're at least average and then work to be slightly above it. But when you do all these behaviors, it's something you're going to notice. Now, I know judging by this community, assuming it's like any other community, there's maybe 20% of you that are putting in work and achieving some fairly good sexual success. The rest of you guys are listening to this and don't do anything with it. And it pains my heart to call you out on it, but that's just the way it is. What the guys have noticed, who once they start putting in work, once they get past that hurdle and success slowly starts coming and starts speeding up, like Hector says here, the hard part is to gain momentum. But once you start gaining momentum, you realize that top 20%, it's not difficult. People literally get out of your way. If you can refrain from eating the Doritos and drinking Monster full sugar energy drinks all day, you'll find that most men are doing just that. And so they don't even try. You'll find that if you are discreet with your sexual endeavors, you don't brag about it too much, which is a very display of higher value. You're going to find most guys talk about railing her, this, that, or the other thing, completely shutting themselves off from other ones. Now, you obviously want pre-selection, but here's the thing. Pre-selection is not something you can do. Pre-selection is what other people do for you. And by being charming, attractive, a good storyteller, great company, emotionally more engaging than whatever it is on their phone that they're fingering, you're going to find these people start doing it for you. Great example for that one was Rich Cooper sent out a tweet today where he said, "Don't forget, guys, hate always comes from the bottom." And it was a post from somebody who should be working on his damn convention next week, finds the time to tweet some nonsense about price points. Rich is a shill. Ryan's a shill. I'm a good value. Zero engagement as per usual. The only guy who reads these tweets are like Rich and Rolo and myself when I see them, usually in screenshot form. But here was the point. Somebody in one of the comments is like, yeah, well, you can tell from the body language that you know this and Rich has helped me this. That's a pre-selection phenomenon there. It's somebody else vouching for you having quality. And that goes further than just about anything you can brag about yourself with. Now, obviously, that's a case of just some Twitter beef and branding and whatever. But this happens sexually too. If you've ever had a female roommate who speaks well of you, a buddy's girlfriend who speaks well of you, somebody who's tried to hook you up with one of her friends, this is all pre-selection stuff. And this is all good. Part of discretion, part of your behavior sets, part of changing your personality, all this stuff bands together to essentially build momentum in your attractiveness. Now, momentum just means other people are helping you do the work of displaying your attractiveness for you. It's a force amplifier. And this is where being charismatic and charming matters. Even when it comes to, if you get hit on by an ugly girl at the bar, if you can let her down tactfully with grace while still making her feel good about it, you're displaying to every good-looking girl around there that you know what you're doing. And that's a very attractive sign. Now, taking her home in front of them will be a display of lower value. Girls like getting what other girls can't have. So you got to make sure that that bar is a little higher than what you're expecting it to be. In other words, if you're doing a slump buster, don't tell your friends. Yeah, that's unfortunate. It's another thing here. We'll go off topic for just a second. Purchased followers. It's the strangest thing, and I don't get it. I don't have numbers or studies or research to go behind this, but I know why people buy followers. It's so they look like they have more people following them. The engagement is zero. And the problem with paid customers is they aren't customers. They're just paid accounts, usually from India or China or some third world country. So when you put out a product, let's say, I don't know, a convention, and you have nothing but paid subscribers, it makes it very difficult to be able to sell that to people because your audience that you're pitching things to doesn't exist. And I have a feeling that you're going to get the inflated idea that, you know, I have 1 million followers on Instagram, but you bought 900,000 of them. You're actually only pitching to 100,000 people. So you may have a giant campaign that's scaled for 1 million people, when in reality, you're wasting 90% of your effort on that. So I don't like it. I don't know if it works. I don't get it. I mean, if people want to do it, they're more than happy to. If you're ever curious about this stuff, easiest thing you can do is check the engagement on very giant accounts. If they're not getting much engagement, then you can pretty much tell that they're purchased accounts. There's also socialblade.com where you can look, and they actually show you the changes in follower counts over time. And when you see large, like big round numbers applied to things, 1,000, 10,000, usually that means it's a purchased amount of subscribers and they add them. Another thing about that too is occasionally the platforms do a purge and they have their algorithms that detect these kind of things and remove it. So, but I was going off a topic there. We were talking about Red Pill being attractive, and one of my favorite posters of the Manosphere. Archwinger. Perfect answer too about getting into game for the first time. Something I liked about Archwinger is he never bragged about his posts. He never claimed to be ultra alpha male. Honestly, the kind of guy who would brag about that most likely doesn't have the self-awareness to be able to give other people the things that he learned from it. So you kind of want a guy who had a struggle. And back to Archwinger, he has another awesome post on this one where he talks about, I'm going to pull it up here for you guys. For those who are on listening to this one, I will probably just read it out to you. I like that one. The red pill is pro women, but I've been hurt in the past. It's another one. Now I'm not going to read the whole thing because this one's a little bit shorter. We can do that. I've been hurt in the past, surrounded by quotations. If you guys have heard, you've probably dated a girl at some time who talks about how she's been hurt in the past, how somebody had done her wrong and she's the victim from it. I don't know whether he got this from his wife or her friends, but he did get it. So he said here, I used to meet a lot of women who allegedly loved me more than any man they had ever met previously, but they went to great lengths to never, ever have sex with me. They weren't virgins. Many had quite the history, but I still never got anywhere. Their reasoning was grounded in woman logic. I've been hurt by a lot of asses in the past, but I really care about you, so I want to do this right, or some variation of that. If you're a loser, upon hearing that, you'll think to yourself, oh, joy, I'm totally not an ass. And she notices this and is rewarding me with a real, non-sexual relationship instead of the shallow one that's going to fail. I am so lucky. I'll wait forever for such a wonderful person. I should find something nice to do for her right now to let her know how grateful I am. Yeah. All right. Now, here's how that woman logic sounds to a real guy. Other men, worse than you or worse than me, have gotten far further with you in less time with less of an emotional and financial investment. Oh, no, sorry, I read this one wrong. I'll do it again. Other men, worse than you, have gotten further with me in less time with less of an emotional and financial investment. But because I care more about you, I'm making you jump through hoops and spend a greater amount of time and money to get far less with me because I care about you. What? Why are you looking at me like that? This makes perfect sense. Yes, giving less to people I care about makes more sense. Here's what the girl really means. I've pegged you for a chump. I don't think you have options with other women, and I don't think you're willing to walk away. So I'm going to frame this relationship on my terms. We have sex when I want to, and that's going to be after I've made you jump through a bunch of hoops to prove you're my little compliant bitch who's going to give me all the time, resources, and validation I want at will. If you were a real man, you'd have had sex with me already, but I've cast you in the role of bitch. I don't care about you. I care about me. I don't even like you. Sex is reserved for men I'm attracted to. You're not a real man. You're my bitch. And here's the kicker. Most women don't know that they really mean this. They just know that validation feels good and that a guy who keeps validating them without sex makes them feel powerful, happy, and better about themselves. Why any woman hears this line of girl logic, I've been hurt in the past, it makes perfect sense to them. She screwed up by giving it up too easily before and wants to stop screwing it up. By stop screwing it up, they mean that she needs to do a better job of withholding sex to bait men into doing things for her to earn it. They don't know they mean that, but that's what they mean. Only in the eyes of a woman does this make sense. To give less to a man that you love more. But that's the rationalization kicking in. If a woman is giving you less and making you do more for it, that's the exact opposite of loving you more. Being stingy with affection is the opposite of love. Requiring exchange of favors rather than just giving of yourself is the opposite of love. It's a difficult truth to admit and to accept, not just for us, but for women. I think on some level, they want to love that nice guy who's going out of their way for them, but they just don't. They can't. But they tell themselves that they do, and they're just taking it slow to avoid getting hurt like they have in the past because they love him more. And if things don't work out, he's still a great guy. The chemistry just wasn't there. And if they slip up and screw some hot guy from work, it was a mistake. They don't love that guy. They love the nice guy, don't they? They were just drunk. I've been hurt in the past and want this to be different. It's nothing more than an insidious shit test. By complimenting you, telling you that you're different from every other guy, that you're not an ass or a douche, and that she loves you more than every previous man, you're off guard when in combination with all of that praise, she denies you sex because she loves you more. If this doesn't resonate with you, then you haven't talked to enough women. I don't care how great you are. At some point, you were inexperienced enough that you took that praise for the manipulation that it was and fell for it. If you've ever been in a girl's orbit, and I've done it, I was a bit of a late bloomer. It was like halfway through college before I figured out that, you don't have to treat women as your best friend. Drew nails this, by the way. His quote, "This sounds just like how some married women talk about their husbands when they're justifying why they're cheating on them." So take these for the cautionary tale that it should be. Another thing, this is a good mental model for a red-pilled man to understand. If you're not getting a girl's best, it's because she doesn't think she has to give you her best. Women act right when they're worried about losing things. They don't act right when they don't have to. And this ties right into the women act as crappy as you let them. So if you're in one of these situations, now I know in the chat, at least one of you guys is going through this right now, and you're giving validation to a girl and getting nothing in return except for praise, realize you're being manipulated. Realize you're not getting a girl's best. Realize people are getting far more from it with far less investment because they're more attractive and hitting those proper triggers, and that you need to divest yourself from this as soon as possible. There is no shortage of questions people will have as to what I can do to get that girl back. And I can tell you right now that you're wasting your time. She will never see you that way. It is not worth your time. And any investment you give is not going to work in your best interest. On that note, 2 seconds here. Got a quick technical issue. Likely fixed now. There we go. All right, I see we had some super chats here, so I'm going to go back to them. Sorry I made you guys wait for so long. For crying out loud. Wish StreamYard did the thing where they actually color them the same way. So I have to do a quick little search back. Bear with me here. First one is by One Man's Way. Thank you for the $10 super chat. And his thing, 90% of hot chicks in my area are single moms. Are you saying Alpha Game doesn't work on that type of women? Guess I'm not going to have a soft harem of single moms. Single moms go one of two ways. Some are looking for a husband to replace, and some are looking for a stud to sleep with while they raise their kid like a strong, empowered woman. Having alpha characteristics work on the type of women who are looking to have fun, not looking to settle down with. Now, sometimes girls are looking for both. Tons of single moms are more than happy to have some dude pay rent while they sleep with a more attractive guy on the side. So yeah, it works. The question is to what end? If you just want to sleep with as many women as possible, yeah, Alpha Game will still work. It will still work. It will still get the results. I would suggest this, though. If your area is full of nothing but single moms, it might behoove you to move. Because it's like living in a minefield. All it takes is one oopsie with one of them, and they've got you on the hook. Now, obviously, for career implications, that might not be so easy a decision. It's all about you then. Is whatever you earn from the job you're at more important to you than the idea of grabbing a single woman who doesn't have baggage, But at the same time, if you're just looking to get yourself some play, then does it really matter? Probably not. But like I said, just because a woman has a kid doesn't mean the rules of things change. Even with the epiphany phase women, the women looking to settle down, they still respond to all the same triggers and behaviors. The only difference is, do they set them into a, and here's the, so when I talk about epiphany phase women or women that are looking to settle down and have a family, they still respond to all this same stuff. The difference is they don't make themselves available in spaces where, in this case, fuckboys hang out. You're going to get one of those guys at a bar being picked up. They just don't go there anymore when they're looking for a husband. They look to find that guy they've been orbiting around. Second super chat, and I was hoping to ignore this one, but here we're at it now. It's from Mega Red. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Do you accept President Dream as your president? First off, Canada has a prime minister. And I don't pick him. His party picks him. Secondly, I'm not sure what he's trying to do. From a business standpoint, it makes no sense. From a branding standpoint, it makes no sense. Let me ask you guys this. Take all your favorite personalities or brands from the manosphere. Take Jack, take Drew, take me, take Rolo, take Rich, and the side of the Florida chumps. If you could distill this type of stuff they talk about down to one phrase, what would you pick? Obviously, for Rolo, you would talk about, he explains the concept of hypergamy and how to navigate through it. Rich talks about entrepreneurship and being your best self, as well as single moms. There's me, who talks incessantly about boundaries, manipulation, and sexual strategy as a set of tools. What would the president be known for? What's his most profound statement? What's any of theirs? And I think that's something that people often forget to ask because they're befuddled by the amount of flashy lights and cool branding and engaging posts that they sometimes forget, like, what is it about this guy that by me following him will improve my life in some measurable way other than entertainment? Because there's tons of entertaining people that you can learn a lot from. There's tons of entertaining people who are more entertaining that you can learn less from. Why would you want some half-assed version of either one? Quick one from Hector here. Rich seems to be a bit bitter, maybe his divorce. Honestly, if you guys haven't heard his story, it was one of the speeches he gave was about the pain of dating a single mom. And it is a heartbreaking story. And I remember the one piece of it that really took me for a loop was when he talked about when you're dating a single mom, you start to grow a bond with her kid. And then when she leaves, the kid leaves, and you have no legal recourse. So you're essentially losing two people. It's no different than somebody who's losing a wife and a child at the same time. It's a very manipulative thing. Hurts the child, hurts the guy. So I wouldn't say he's bitter about it so much as, like, how should you react to that? When you have that kind of experience and then you see another single mom trying to find dad 2.0, yeah, I'm the same way myself. I'm like, why would you do that to a kid? Next part on the attractiveness stuff. I know I've been talking a lot over the past week and a bit on logistics. Davey here kind of brought up a topic and I'll go on to it. Yes, moving out of your parents' place. Here, logistics is... And I know you guys have seen the same stats I have. MGTOWs parade them around talking about Stacey doing this, that, or the other thing. How many people under 30 are living with their parents now as opposed to 20 years ago? I wish I could say, because I left home when I was 17 to go to college. I think I came back for one summer and then I was done. My generation is like 18. An 18-year-old guy at his parents' place was almost unheard of, unless he was there for a temporary period of time because something was happening and he had to go in like a few months. Now it seems very commonplace. Now, I know people blame the economy and real estate prices, which is true. You can't buy a house straight out of high school, but unless you lived in the Midwest in the 60s and 70s during the manufacturing boom, you probably weren't doing that anyway. So living on your own is expensive. I think I told the story about how when I first moved out in college, I couldn't really afford a place of my own. So I grabbed 6 roommates and we grabbed a 3-bedroom townhome. And we were able to afford it. And here's the thing. It was so much easier for me to bring a girl home when I had 5 guys to tell, hey guys, I need some privacy, than it was to be able to do that with parents in the place. And I'm sure you guys have seen the joke that a girl would rather come over if she knows your wife isn't home than she would if your mom isn't home. It's just the way it is. Logistics wise, you need to have your logistics on check. There is no amount of game in the world that'll get past that insurmountable hurdle if you don't. You could have a great opener. You can build great rapport. You can sexually escalate. You can have good kino. You can bridge 3, 4, 5 times, have the most amazing time dilation to turn 1 date into 7. You can even have a plausible deniability story built up so a girl can sleep with you without feeling guilty about it. You can have great aftercare, but if you have nowhere to take you, then you shot yourself in the foot. It's like Columbus. The only reason he worked out for him is because North America was there. If it wasn't and the earth was flat, he'd just fallen off the earth. So get your logistics in order. I think, and here's the thing. So a lot of guys love to argue this point. Well, we wish you could move in. I wish I had that kind of money. Well, you can. First off, you can. You may have to do a job you don't like. I know I've had tons of crappy jobs in my lifetime. Like one of the crappiest ones was working on a ranch. Hauling irrigation lines at 4 in the morning is no joke, and I would not recommend it to anybody. Oh, thanks, Snuggies. You guys know you got a lifetime keeper of a girl when she brings you a coffee in the middle of your podcast. Hold her tight and don't ever let her go. Yeah, so and I think the issue is people are isolated and they're not able to make friends anymore. I think that might be a better strategy for young men to deal with their sexual frustration than any amount of game. How to find yourself 5 friends to be able to shack up in a place together. And I don't think a lot of guys can say that. I don't think a lot of guys in my generation can even saying that. Like I've got a good half dozen friends that I could call up frequently enough. Not frequently enough, but I fly down to see them. I know where their lives are at. And I just don't know if guys are able to do that anymore. And they don't have to be attractive friends. You don't need your friends to be, you don't need to have a mystery method layer, like a pickup layer full of 6 attractive guys who are all running game. My first place, I had a video game nerd who had a girlfriend, like a Belle Daphne kind of scenario thing there. I had another one, which is a very nice, sweet kid who loved being outdoorsy. No girl really liked him. He was kind of the quintessential nice guy. I had the kind of guy who would wear a trench coat in the summer kind of roommate, big into death metal and stuff like that and programming. I had a guy who was a skateboarder doing skateboard videos, that kind of stuff. Wasn't really into any of the stuff. A super Christian 6'2" Chad who saved himself for marriage. And probably one of the most unattractive friend. It was a friend of mine. I had him since grade 1. And I don't mean to like insult the guy because I still like the guy to this day, but it was a motley crew of guys. Absolutely horrible. Talk to women, some of them. I actually had some of the guys I lived with creep out the girls I would bring home, which made me laugh. I'm like, oh, they're fine. You just don't know them well enough yet. But that's the point. It's like, it doesn't really matter. You just need, financially, you're leveraging other men so that you're able to have some measure of success. And they're doing the same for you, which I think is a great thing. There's a whole bunch of logistics involved with that, how to handle the least things, how to keep yourself from being screwed over. There's always going to be a point where like a roommate leaves and you have to pick up one last minute. But those are good stories. Like my female wingman roommate that I had for a brief period, like a couple years when I was in the military, that actually happened by accident. I lost a roommate I had who was helping me pay for my first condo. And at the time, her best friend, who ended up being a stripper, was friends with a sailor of mine. And they lived together for years. And she always thought that was kind of cool. I'm like, yeah, I just lost my roommate. Why don't you move in with me then? And I think I didn't even charge rent. Like for me, it was because I was sailing so much. I just liked having somebody at the house. So I didn't come home with, all the food out of the fridge being ruined because the power shut off once and I wasn't there to turn it back on. So she almost paid nothing, but it was probably the most fun experience ever. Now, it never would have gotten there had I been too proud to live with other people and be more social. But yeah, that did great. She had more tattoos than me too. She actually kind of reminds me of this count I follow on Twitter, Danny California. I think her handle is no URL. Oh boy. All right. That's the other thing. I hate talking about people, but here's an interesting phenomenon for you. If you guys haven't seen, Tate Bro has a picture with Jordan Peterson's daughter, and the meme running around the manosphere is that she was showing off her prescriptions online to show, I don't even know why. Was it to show off like how much she's overcome? Like, I used to be a victim and now I'm empowered because I'm off of Xanax or whatever it was. By the way, if you ever have an urge to flex by showing your medical prescriptions online, don't. I think we can safely call this very consistently good RP advice. Do not. Privacy is a thing and it matters. Certain details like that will always come to bite you in the ass. Don't do it. And then on that, she's acting just the way that we said women can act. She's getting divorced. She wants a new guy. She does exactly what women do. Why people are surprised, let alone angry about it, boggles the mind. Going to give another shout out here. One Man's Way. I swear to God, man, you're going to put my kids through college. But thank you. $20 super chat. I don't have good enough credit to rent yet. When my mom got cancer, I moved in to help her. All the bills and everything wrecked my credit. My job allows me to have 2 weeks off a month. Who could teach me vacation game? That's a good question. I would probably have to go with Troy. And I hate to say it, John too, but John likes to blow a lot of money on game, I think. But between the two of them, they're the two guys, at least I know the best in this space, who are able to pick up abroad. Now, here's the thing too. So with this one here, like, you've made decisions, and you obviously made decisions that give you a suboptimal outcome for it, which don't fault you. In your situation, I'd probably do the same thing here. The one thing that might help you though with the roommates and the credit, because I know they do credit checks on these things, is to not be the primary renter. The person who does the credit check can be a renter, and you just move in with him. You're technically not on the lease or anything like that. It actually puts you in a lot more freedom in the situation here. But if I had to put a pin on vacation game, I would definitely say day approaches. Can't go wrong with Troy. The London model, that's the only problem, is I don't have personal experience with the London day game model. But as far as a system goes, it looks pretty straightforward. I do enjoy it. It has a lot of the similar beats to the mystery method, which I am experienced with. And so if it doesn't work, it's definitely just on the peripherals. The general framework of it is pretty solid. But this one's a good question. So if I had you as a client, good job on taking care of your mom, by the way. Like, nobody can fault you for that. Yeah, at the same time, I don't know about credit. Here's the thing too. So I don't know about where you live, but up here in Canada, there's often people that do the credit checks and all that stuff. They're just concerned about keeping their investment. So you can always overcome that with cash and leases. If you promise, so if you don't know, for people who rent, they often have to charge a higher rent because they know they're not, especially in college towns where they're not going to keep people for the whole year. They offer deals saying, look, if you stay with us for these 4 summer months, we'll drop your rent to half for those 4 months. Just stay there, because for them, it's still money making. Once you leave a place, there's costs involved with cleaning and preparing the place, putting the stuff up to get more people in, doing the next set of background checks and moving them in, plus the missing revenue from the days of rent that people aren't in that place. So it can be 1 to 3 months of lost mortgage. Now, if you get $1,000 a month mortgage on a place, if you're missing 3 months of rent, that's $3,000 right there. It's not chump change. Having said that, doesn't Detroit have that 2008 crisis stuff where it's selling homes for like $1? Maybe that's what you need to do. Find a place that's completely been destroyed by the 2008 bank bailout and just live there. I hear Detroit has a burgeoning tech sector. They're trying to build like an alternative to Silicon Valley with that. And that's the thing with vacation game too. So for my experiences on it, and I remember there was one point, probably one of my more favorite ones with it, was when I decided one day not to tell anybody, not to fill out a leave pass. I just bought a ticket and flew to Mexico for a week by myself. Didn't tell anybody. If I had died there, nobody would have known what happened to me. The thing it taught me was about being fearless when there is no more consequences. It was still before I did a lot of sailing, and it helped me immeasurably there. But I remember at first I was still always concerned about making new friends or talking to people because it was this unknown anxiety about it. But by the end of the week, I had realized, like, look, I had spent one night by myself, not talking to anybody in Mexico. And I'm not going to tell you that experience was so brutal that I went out at the very least just to stave off boredom, which I think was kind of the start of my whole devil may care attitude towards picking up. Worked out well. But here's the thing. You just realize, and you get that very platitude, like, yeah, life is short. You got to go out and do things. But you never really can map that life is too short parable with your life until you put yourself in a position to see how bad it can be if you aren't acting with that YOLO, do not give a crap, caring type attitude. So I would almost say for vacation game, it could probably just behoove you to go through the M3, Daybang, and then Troy's. Which one of Troy's books do I recommend? I couldn't even think. He's got the 10 of them there. Probably is one about approaching. We'll go with that one. Just read one of them, get an idea for a roadmap, go out there, and then just take your 2-week vacation somewhere by yourself and literally treat this as a science experiment. Gamify your dating life. Total spurgy. Yes, I get it. Very unattractive if people are finding your notes and talking about this approach worked, this approach didn't. That's fine. It's all unattractive. We'll get past that. The point is you're taking deliberate action towards bettering your life from a systematic approach. And you can't fault a guy for that. I think that is most likely your best bet. Now, it's going to be uncomfortable as hell. It's going to be awkward. You're probably going to have more failures than successes, which is fine. You learn more from failure than you do success. But at the end of it, you're going to notice these more trivial situations around you are going to be so much easier to handle. Because I remember that time I went to Venezuela and was hitting on girls. He tried to poison me with this weird flower to steal all my money. You think this thought at the bar is going to be that much of a challenge? Probably not. Yeah, and that's a good point with Drew. I always think of that Simpsons episode with the Principal Skinner, where the guy's like, Don't you live with your mom? She lives with me." But at the same time, too, you can always talk with your mom. If there's a girl in your area that you are interested in, like, "Mom, I need an afternoon," or something. I don't know if she's bedridden or what, but like, there's ways to work out some amount of privacy. Or you're not in an ideal situation. You're definitely an outlier. So hopefully that gives you a good enough answer that helps you get through your map, enjoy your vacation time, and hopefully come out with a little bit of human interaction from it. Because at the end of the day, it's not about sex. If it was just about sex, guys would be talking about how best to get hookers and which doll is your favorite. It's about human contact, and it's about the dignity of a man who can get sexual intimacy from a woman. I don't want to use the word validate, but it is, from a biological perspective, it just shows that you're competent enough to be basically a human being. Same as being able to cook your own food or hunt your own animals. All these things are basic biological functions that any animal in the world needs to do in order to be considered genetically viable. Which, whatever. Smarter men used to be the former. That's how we know they are the smarter men. That's very sweet. Thank you very much, Jimmy Bob Jim Sauce. Just buy all 10 is less than. That is true. I got to admit, it's the one thing with Troy. And I don't know if he's brilliant or not. I keep telling him, you got to raise the prices on your books because he's charging $35 for 10 books. And I just don't know how it makes sense. But you know what? He doesn't change it. So his business decision is your gain. Actually, what I should do, I'll tell you what, too. I'll throw a link in this one. If you guys are curious about it, it's definitely worth the purchase. There it is. Link in the chat. Oops. Link in the chat here for his Renegade Dating Blueprint. Copy the damn link. It's nice too because it's a comprehensive look at the London day game model as best he can. Links in the chat there for you. I'll put it up on the thing here too. If you guys are watching this in the podcast, he has a Gumroad Renegade Dating Blueprint. If I can hopefully remember this, I will put this in the description of the podcast episode for you. If you're ever wanting to know about the London day game model, how to generally approach and to follow through, it's a nice little framework that you can use and adapt it to your own personality and your behaviors and your qualities and your strengths so that you can have a generally more successful dating life among the demographics of women that you're going to have more fulfilling experiences with. So that should be worth it right there. Benevolent Prime Minister Stone giving us links. Marty, you're such an ass. A quick shout out to trp.red. For those who don't know, the Red Pill subreddit almost got banned. I guess one of the admins there jumped the gun, sent a message saying the subreddit was going to be removed. And then a day later, a different administrator came on saying, false alarm, we're actually not going to right now. Just make sure you follow your policies better, blah, 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 blah. So the plan was to start up the tribes and the forum and all the functions for a private community that's outside of the Silicon Valley, like wokeosphere. So it launched a little bit early for all Patreon subscribers. We've started to build access into a private tribe there, which is going to be part of both a private Twitter-like community as well as a forum, which I was going to use as a testing ground. Essentially, all the things that I've learned over the last 5, 6, 7 years over from the Married Red Pill, from Pickup, from Married Red Pill, put it together in a comprehensive form that allows guys to start from any point in their sexual frustration or marital obstacles and eventually move through to more sexual success. And then the idea was that was going to be a place where it was going to be a collection of content, field reports, exercises, very similar to the way you would see Glover's book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, has his breaking free exercises, something similar to that anyway. The forums, I keep hounding Red Pill School to get those forums ready. He says they're going to be up sooner than later. His original date, he wanted to launch all this stuff December 1st. So he wants to push it ahead. If we're lucky by November, the thing will be up and running. But feel free, if you join up with Patreon, it's the price of one PSL. You can get not only early access to the videos before I put them out, the scripts that I'm using, as well as some that I don't, posts that I don't put on elsewhere, weekly Patreon Q&As where we talk about strategy like this, but a lot more personal and a lot more mapped to other people, like mapped to your specific situation. It's discretion and privacy. And then the private community is add-on for that, where we can have discussions of things that you really can't say on here. Because if you notice, I'm trying my best not to swear, no F-bombs, no slurs. It's definitely looser rules over there, where I can speak like the sailor who came from a logging camp that I am. Yes, that is true. Matt W. hears that Troy writes novels too. I bet they're good. I wish I had more time to check them out. Yeah, I guess his parents were both writers, and so he's kind of caught that bug too. I've noticed, actually, there's a lot of red-pilled guys who had writing as either a hobby or a secondary thing in their lives. If you guys don't know Ian Ironwood, oh yeah, porn was the other one. So there's this guy from the Red Pill, one of the moderators, B. Sutton. He actually works in the porn industry, which is hilarious. Ian Ironwood used to do marketing and psychological analysis and that for the porn industry for years, as well as being a married guy. Who was the other one that was the writer? There was one more person that was actually a writer. It's not Ironwood. Either way, the names, I'm coming up as a blank right now. Maybe it was Athel K. Last Psychiatrist, all these guys. Everybody likes writing books or working in porn. A lot of people have sight hounds. It's just one of those things. It's kind of neat to see there's so much overlap in the types of hobbies and secondary careers that a lot of the guys in the red pill have, how they seem to align very closely. So it's pretty cool. Not that it matters. The No More Mr. Nice Guy forums. I don't know about the original ones. I wasn't part of Athol K stuff either. I got here just like a year or so before, and I was busy on the Married Red Pill forums and the Red Pill forums, moderating both of those. But one of our fellow moderators, Yui McGill, he runs the No More Mr. Nice Guy subreddit, which is very similar to the No More Mr. Nice Guy forums. On that note, what are we on here? Hour 16. We're going to go back to the Archwinger, the trough that never runs dry. Here's something that's really kind of neat. And see if I can find it. It was a post that he had put that I actually was inspired to do one of my videos on. Focus on you first and second and third and blah, blah, blah. Worry about women seventh. If you don't know, I've got a video up on YouTube right now on the 6 things you should prioritize more than women, which was inspired by Archwinger. And I liked it because everybody who wants to critique Red Pill, they always talk about, well, you're pedestalizing women, you're pussy begging, all that normal crap. So, which isn't true, but it's very hard to defend against because A, like, who the fuck is this MGTOW guy that I need to defend against him? And B, like, if you have a rock solid frame, you shouldn't feel the need to justify yourself to other people. But Archie went through the great idea of showing you the 6 things you actually are supposed to prioritize above a woman. And he goes, a lot of people, especially new people, show up on the Red Pill wondering, what specifically can I do to improve my life? They're not looking for academic theory about women and power talk and discussions about how shitty women are and alpha and beta and various examples of men. They're looking for concrete help. Advice they can implement today to make their lives better. First, join the gym. Or if you're already doing that, but don't go regularly. Or go back if you used to and stopped. Make time every day, up to 6 days a week. Every other day if you have things to do, but minimum 3 times a week. Do strength training. Look up Strong List 5x5, which, and I know Drew probably hates to hear that, but I like it as the Red Pill workout program because it's, as far as I know, they developed it in the 50s. It's the longest running, hardest to screw up, easiest to do workout program in existence that has decent results for getting a base of strength. Like, you could be the stupidest man on earth and you can get through a 5x5. I guarantee you. You just look it up, 5x5, type 5x5 online workouts, and you'll see it. Second, eat well and get enough sleep. Staying up till 4, drinking beer is fine when you're 19, but you're a real person now, and you wake up at 5 a.m. to work out. So eat real food, not bars, not shakes. Cut out soft drinks and energy drinks and other BS. Limit your alcohol to social. Learn to cook. And buy actual stuff from a healthy grocery store. If you guys are catching on here, you see the inspiration to my cooking channel was kind of like this post too. So it was one of the big things. For those that don't know, there's the reason I do the cooking videos along with Red Pill knowledge onto it, because the subtext and the process communication behind it being that to be an attractive man, it's not about just navel gazing and finding out about the nature of women and hearing who's doing what with who. It's about actually improving your life in ways that aren't sexy, aren't glamorous, but have long-term results. And being able to cook for yourself and eat healthy food is probably one of the best things you can do with the least amount of investment over the longest period of time to improve your life immeasurably across all different avenues and spheres of influence. Sleep 8 to 9 hours a night. You have nothing to prove to anybody by staying up until midnight. You got a job, a workout regimen, and a life to live. Third, get a job if you don't have one. Get a job if you have a shitty job. Get ahead at your good job if you already have one of those. And he goes in some of the things here, like you can look at Indeed.com or Monster. Indeed.com or Monster. That's weird. Sorry, one sec. It said here I might have missed a super chat. I'm going to look through it. Oh, there it is. All right, here. One Man's Way. I'm going to put it up there. I'll get to it in just one sec. I'll just finish this thing quick. Do a general search for companies, your industry, send them letters, copy your resume, follow up. And there's a lot of things here. Now, I don't like talking about this one too much because when it comes to hunting in the job market, he's a bit boomer here. Like for a lot of companies, they actively keep you away from personal contact with people. But networking, he is right. Networking is the best way. If you can ever sneak into a Deloitte function or know a friend who works in an industry, have you tag along to one of these things. Nobody ever checks attendance anyway. Just to be able to meet people and have your name out there is immeasurable. And even if you're in school now, get a part-time job, doing something cool. It's a great conversation piece when you're finally out of school. The fact that you did something besides go to school for 4 years sets you apart. That includes being a bouncer, a bartender, awesome jobs to do while you're going to school. Fourth, talk to strangers all the time. Are you in line somewhere, at a coffee shop, a student at your university, on the street, in the gym, anywhere else that other people exist and aren't busy working? Just chat with strangers. You're not trying to make a new best friend or get a date. You're just chatting with people, both men and women, 30 to 60 seconds tops, maybe 10 people a day. I want to put this higher on the list because everybody who asks me for advice, I always talk to them and tell them to start talking to strangers, doing the things you're already doing in a day, looking over to people. And for some reason, getting somebody to talk to 10 strangers a day that are already around them is the hardest thing to get a guy to start doing. We're going to put a quick pause in this one. Going to read out the super chat from One Man Way. Thank you for the $20 super chat. I like to be altruistic. It makes me feel good. Twain would agree with you there. Men are only altruistic in that it soothes their soul. Is this blue pill conditioning or a taught feminine behavior or an authentic me? I could see it either way, especially if all of Rollo's work was free for a while. I don't even think you have to go into Rollo's work for this one. The best way to frame this one is about covert contracts. And that's, again, going back to Glover on this. When you're doing something, if you're expecting reciprocity as like an unwritten rule, then guarantee you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You're doing it for validation. In your case, taking care of family, it can and it can't. So I'm not going to speak to your situation. I don't know your situation. I'll just speak to in general. There's usually two types of situations when it comes to helping out a family member. There's one where a family member is on hard luck and they need help getting back on their feet. That kind of help is amazing. Then there's the kind of one where they kind of goad you into it and they play wounded because they want you to take care of them. These are the ones where nothing's ever good enough. And every time you say, like, look, I have to get to my own life right now, they start whining how you're going to have them killed. I know there's the joke about the Jewish mother who's always like trying to keep her kid at home because, oh, I know you're 30, but I love you. And I'm going to die if you leave. It's guilt trippy stuff. So I would just say be very careful with your altruism because it is very easy for other people, especially women, to weaponize your altruism by playing wounded. If you haven't seen, I got a great post on the types of manipulation. There's also a video. I think it was the first video that I released by a guy who animated it with one of those cool looking hand-drawn whiteboard type talks where he talks about the different types of manipulation. And playing wounded is one of the most effective ones because it taps into your provider instinct. So just make sure, like, yes, taking care of your family is noble. Nobody will get mad at you for that. But if it gets to the point that you become a crutch for their improvement, it sometimes behooves you to let them kind of fail or succeed on their own. But it's very easy from the outside to tell if you're being taken advantage of. And this is where it's really important to get a good set of strong friend network that are willing to tell you these hard things that you may not want to accept yourself. So I would say definitely get a third opinion from other family members. If, excuse me. Bless me. All right. Hector, by the way, I see you had a super chat. I can't seem to find it on the list here. So do me a favor, repost what you put on there, and I'll talk to it after I'm done here with One Man's Way. So do find a family member who has your best interest at heart or a really good friend, and just use those guys every now and again to gauge whether you're being taken advantage of or whether you're doing a nice thing to somebody because you like taking care of people. Although the standard red pill answer is effort in should match effort out. If somebody's not showing value to your life, you really shouldn't set yourself on fire to keep them warm. So I guess technically from a red pill perspective, altruism is seen as unideal. Yep. Not as unideal, but at the same time, it's your life to live, so people can't really tell you. All right. Thanks. I guess I missed a super chat from Hector. Thank you very much, Hector, for the super chat. His question was how to avoid being bitter after a divorce. The idea of my divorce is for my daughter to have at least one happy or fulfilled parent. Any thoughts? Bitter people are still invested. If you're angry, if you're bitter, if you still have an emotional reaction to something, you're still invested somewhat. I think I would tell a story often about how the stokers, the hull techs, and the weapons techs, every morning before work on ship, they would get down to the lounge. They had their one table. They called it the bitching table. And they sat down. They had their coffee. They complained how their boss was a dick. The captain was an ass. Somebody was stupid and almost got people killed. And they just bitched and complained and bitched and complained. It sounded like they absolutely hated somebody. But then every day they would get up, put their coffee away, go back to work. They were angry at the military and their specific chain of command because they were still invested in it and it wasn't working the way they thought it should work. Same thing with a divorce. If your wife is not acting the way that she should have acted because of a marriage or what have you, well, that's not even so much that they are making you angry. It's that your expectations are out of whack. And anger is your way to kind of realign those things. The one thing I have seen that does work fairly well is to start doing field reports on the situations that specifically make you angry about this or bitter. The thing about just keeping these thoughts in your head is they're very malleable. Your body will lead with the feeling, that limbic brain response. Oh, she's a bitch. I can't stand her. And then everything you think about just reinforces that. It's a horrible feedback loop. But by writing it down, you're forced to articulate the actual grievances. And so you'll find out maybe your issue isn't even the cheating. The issue was that she did that one sexual act that you always love, but she refused to do. And then she did to some guy she only met half an hour ago. So sometimes it's there that you're mad at yourself for investing so much into this person when they gave you the only thing you wanted back, they gave it away to somebody else. And that can end up being the core of the issue anyway. Now, here's the beauty of it. Once you discover what the core issue is and why you're still angry and bitter, it tends to go away because you understand why it's happening. And if you find out that's the issue, then you don't even care about that anymore because you're getting divorced. So you're not giving her another ounce of your time, your money, your resources, nothing. And so you're able to move past it. At the same time, you've just built a stronger tool chest of boundaries. So from now on, you know that if a girl's not giving you her best, that she's not worth the time of day, and you'll move on from it. And this is going to be a good thing for multiple reasons. First off, you're going to be way less bitter and angry about your divorce, which is a good thing. I mean, you'll still hate the bitch, which you're divorced. What are you supposed to do? Still like her? I would suggest for a lot of strategies, especially ones where girls have primary custody, it's sometimes better to suck up those feelings and play nice because it's much easier to get a more favorable parenting arrangement. And for this, it's a case of a guy having to focus on what he wants and not how he feels. Especially when it comes to raising a good daughter. Having a good, strong father in her life is probably a good thing. It definitely keeps her out of a list of prescriptions. And so if you just have to suck up telling your bitch ex-wife that you can't stand her until your kid turns 18, like I said, most people love talking about how much they love their children, but I see very few people who are willing to suck up that measure of like personal animosity to be able to show it. But you seem switched on. I'm sure you're going to be fine with this. But at the end of the day, It was something I actually heard from Peterson. This was before his whole I'm not going to use the pronoun thing. This was back when he was just a clinical psychologist and very switched on. It's that when you're still having an emotional reaction to a situation, it's because you don't fully understand it. And once you understand it, the emotions start to go away and you're able to take the processing of it to your frontal lobe. And that's where you essentially get past these things. Hector, you dick. Hector, thank you for the $20 super chat. Thanks, coach. You son of a bitch. For those who may be new to this, I absolutely hate people who are called coaches, and I refuse to be called one myself. For the online space, there's so many guys who call themselves coach this, coach that. And I think it's a very manipulative business term that really gives people a scammy feel to the whole thing. Because a coach is somebody who's held accountable for the performance of his team. If you're a coach for a football team, if the team wins, good coach. If the team loses, fire the coach. From the online space, you cannot be a coach, even if they wanted to. Even if I wanted to have accountability for the outcome of somebody's life here after following my advice, I couldn't do it. It's physically impossible. And so to call yourself a coach is to make promises that you absolutely cannot keep, which is why I've always gone with consulting, because I find, and I got to thank Deloitte for this one, because they're so very weaselly about taking responsibility for absolutely nothing that they say. But it made me understand it's more accurate in that it's exactly what's being delivered. It's similar as the services a lawyer would provide, although with a lot less gravitas and rigor. You can consult a guy, you can give a guy experience, you can give a guy ideas, you can give a guy your research, but at the end of the day, it's up to him to make a decision, and he has to be held accountable to his own actions. And so I find consulting is a much more accurate term to describe these things. Now, I know it's pedantic and nobody cares, but that's why I absolutely hate guys who call themselves coaches. Thanks again. $5 super chat for Atham Alducia. I'm not Spanish or Greek or whatever that is, so I can't pronounce it very well. You'll have to forgive me. Good morning, Ryan. Good morning, Atham. What is your favorite pipe tobacco blend? Mine is Dunhill Flake, now discontinued, but they say Peterson will re-release it. He's getting into the pipe game, is he? Ha! I'm actually not that much of a snob about the pipe stuff. We've been on a hunt for one. I know my girl said she liked the smell of pipe tobacco. It kind of reminds her of grandpa, but there's a sweetness to tobacco. So I'm always on the search for one that has the most sweet after scent to it. I have not seen it yet. I have a blend that I got now from a place in Toronto. I cannot remember the name of it right now. Actually, you know what? Hold that thought. Let me. One sec. I'll get the old lady to bring it in. I'll let you know exactly what I use right now. For those who don't know, it's one of the few. It's the only thing from Bruno that I've actually enjoyed. Once a week, usually before I do some heavy writing, I'll kind of to a humidity. What is the brand of this one? I like the idea of just having a pipe once a week. It's kind of fun. Butter pillows. Yeah, I honestly don't know what the brand of it is. All right, I think it's just some internal brand to the company that sells it. But you guys would probably hate it when it comes to like the true fans and the Puritan guys. They probably think I'm ridiculous because I just have some old Captain Black promotional Sherlock Holmes looking pipe. It's just the standard stuff. There was a vanilla stuff that came out of Florida that was kind of neat. Like it smelled really nice, but I didn't like the after scent of it. So I'll probably have to defer to you on what the best types are. For me, it's mostly about the ritual. It's like my Japanese tea ceremony. It's a half hour or like 15 minutes. I sit there, enjoy myself, and it's the one time where I kind of get to turn off everything around me and just live in the moment, enjoy what I'm enjoying. Same as coffee. Like I love Ground Shark coffee since talking with Nick and them and since getting on board, which by the way, I'll put the link in here too. It's just ryanstone.com/coffee. .com. But I'm not too proud that I can't enjoy a Starbucks as well. when I'm in the area. There we go. But if you guys see, like, I know a lot of guys say never blend your coffee, always grind it in a proper grinder because the heat and blah, 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 blah with the tannins. I don't worry about that crap. I find that for the system I got in place right now, which is a 10-second grind in a Ninja blender, French press gives me, and a dark as roast as possible. Honestly, Italian roast, French roast, the darker, the better. I want it to taste like I'm eating the earth itself. And sure, it may not be award-winning 90% perfect this, that, and the other thing, but it's good enough. I make it properly, and I found there's no really better way to prepare it than just a French press. There we go. And it's the same thing with the pipe. I just want good enough. I like the nice sweet scent to it. I like when they got nice ribbons on it, but for the most part, I haven't seen anything that truly stands out of the pack yet. Now, if I can find one that has that wonderful sweet after scent to it, which I know because a lot of colognes do this too. So if you guys don't know, here's your metrosexual rule for the day. Colognes have 3 parts to them, and I might get the names wrong, but I'm not getting the processes wrong. There's that initial bam of scent, then there's the mid-tones, and then there's the tail, I think I call it, but the stuff at the end. So the alcohol scented stuff is usually that initial stuff. So when people spray you at the store with that cologne in the face, all you're getting is that first stuff. It's gone after about a minute before you leave the house. The mid-tones are the stuff that usually smell for, a couple minutes afterwards. And the stuff that comes out of the oils, and I believe tobacco, when they add it to male cologne, this is the part where it is. It's in that tail end. And it's the scent that lingers for a long time, and it's very subtle. That's the one thing I kind of like from tobacco there. So I'm trying to get as delicate a flavor as I can find. All right. Oh boy. Bear with me here. I just realized I missed 2 more super chats while I was busy talking about this one here. Pedro, I see yours. Let me pull it up here. They really need to 4, 5, 6. There it is. Thank you, Pedro Areola. Hey, that's funny. In English, that means the girl's area around her nipples. What is your favorite person from history and why? I don't really do heroes. I guess if I had to answer this one, it would be the one that I have the most interest in, at least right now. I'd have to put it as a tie between Bruce Lee and Mark Twain. Not for any noble reason. I know most people like saying Marcus Aurelius or this, that, and the other thing, Genghis Khan, because he's a pimp or whatever. But I like Twain because he changed the literary landscape. He made accessible language profound. If you notice before then, during the Enlightenment, a lot of people loved sounding pedantic. And I mean, he's been able to better talk about what makes man using pig iron than guys who have spent years doing it, talking with the most flowery language ever. I just like it because it's amazingly accessible. And then Bruce Lee, because he essentially red-pilled martial arts. I think MMA kind of owes a big service to him because he just took what was blue pill from a martial artist standpoint, like Kung Fu, the forms, everybody had their own styles and they were all different camps and everybody fights together and whatever, but nobody ever tests things. And he goes, you know what? I'm just going to adopt the things that work and shed the things that don't work. Now, he was an actual street fighter. Like, people had fights in the streets then. I remember the story of when he was at his home in LA with his kids and his wife, and somebody broke into his house and jumped into his backyard to challenge him to a fight. Now, normally he kind of plays. He never goes full on, but he said at that point he kicked that guy through the wall of his yard. Or he kicked that guy. I don't remember if he kicked him through the wall or if he kicked him into a brick wall so hard that it broke a guy's rib or something like that. But that was the situations that he was worried about. He's like, you know what? If I have to fight to protect my family, what would I want to do to be most effective from it? And so I like that because he shed all of the forms, all of the hierarchy. He was the martial arts version of Jesus, flipping over tables. And here's another one from One Man Way, another $10 super chat. Thank you very much. If I see my ex-fiance, oh yeah, I remember her. As long as you got the ring back. If I see my ex in a social setting, should I pretend she doesn't exist or treat her like all other women? there's no reason not to be cordial and polite. Do you remember what I said before in the earlier part of the podcast where if you are being hit on by a fat girl that you don't like, how you can let her down softly to make her enjoy the experience, not be too harsh as a display of higher value? Same thing here. Be polite, be cordial. Do not give her any validation or more of your time and attention that you would give any other stranger. I mean, there's no reason to be angry and bitter about her. And this is a big problem a lot of guys have, by the way, where they're in a situation with somebody that they have a history with, which is not a positive history. And then when they get into another social engagement with them, they start acting a damn fool. Right there, the subtext of the situation will now change. The girl will protect her reputation, play the victim, make you out to be the bad guy. And since you're ranting like a fool about how she did you wrong, in that social situation, you look like the villain and she looks like the victim. It's very clever, very useful, and you want to avoid it like the plague. Just be cordial, act pleasant, be normal, treat her no different than any other stranger, which includes not giving her any more of your time than absolutely necessary. Next one here, another one, $2 from Atham El Duca. Not a pipe snob here. We all enjoy different blends. Yeah, I may get there one day. Keep in mind too, so I do it so very infrequently. Like I said, it's usually my Monday morning routine that I will buy a $50 bag of tobacco and that will last me about 9 months. So I definitely don't use it enough where I could have that level of discernment. But if there's something local to the area that's really good and has that sweet tail end scent to it, be more than happy to hear about it. If anybody knows in the Toronto area here. We kind of lost track of where we were at though. So I'm going to go back to when I was talking about Archwinger here, the 7 things to value above women. And he was talking about 5th. Here's another important one too. Join some professional societies, hobbyist groups, start taking guitar, martial arts lessons, or something that interests you, not related to your job. You need things to do besides work, cook dinner, and sleep. Otherwise, you're a boring little shit. Be interested in something and look into it. Cooking, making soap, making explosives, going to the shooting range. I don't care. But if you're a man, you're at least passively been interested in a lot of things over the years. Pick a few of them with greatest interest and actually look into them. You won't live forever. We're going back here. One man way. Thanks again. The $5 super chat is an update. Yes, I got the ring black. No clue what to do with it. Haha. I think that's good. Here, if you guys don't know, I hope you don't mind because we're kind of talking about it publicly. Fiance treated him wrong. He wanted to get the ring back and then, address the problems. And my advice to him was don't talk about her being a slut. Don't talk about her being AWOL, all that crap. Your goal is to go get your ring back. So be nice, be cordial, be pleasant. The only conversation that you're having right now is, can I have my ring back? Can I have my ring back? And I know she probably tried to give a whole bunch of emotional engagement on there, get some validation for it, get some absolution for her crimes, whatever. He went and he just kindly is like, yeah, okay. Can I have the ring back? Yeah. Can I have the ring back? Got the ring back, left. Awesome. Perfect execution of frame, by the way. You guys, if One Man Way is more than happy to throw it in the chat and he can tell as much or as little of the stories he wants to tell, I think it's a great example of being focused on what you want out of an interaction and not leading with your feelings. Probably one of the most underrated masculine things a guy can do. As for what you can do with it, well, that's the beauty of it. Obviously, if you're going to get engaged again, and I don't know why you would, but whatever, give it to that girl. Call it a family heirloom. Just don't tell her that another girl had it first. They don't like hearing that. They want to hear that they're the special one. I would suggest calling it a family heirloom. My mom gave it to me to give to the woman that I want, which also gives you plausible deniability. If somebody's like, oh, he bought that ring for me. Like, that's a family heirloom. So the one I'm going to marry is the one who gets it. She tried, but she failed, so she doesn't get it. Patrice O'Neill actually had a great thing on this. He said you can call it the whatever you want it to mean ring. It's like, for those who don't know right now, I'm common law married with my girl, which means the government decided that I was married without consulting me first. I did get an engagement ring for her, a pretty nice one too. And I already told her, it's like, that's a whatever you want it to mean ring, because we're not getting married. And 11 years later, still no separation. And she still shows me that ring and jabs it in my face every couple days. Have you seen it? Gives me the whole Rick James stamp on the forehead. Damn that woman. But back to the last bit of the post. So we just got through number 5, joining professional societies, doing things that are more interesting. And this is going to be good for a storytelling perspective. You want to be able to talk about something other than your job, because the guys who talk about their job are boring as hell. Have an interest in something that's bigger than your work. So we'll see. Ooh, all right. Quick pause now. Matt's talking about if Bruce Lee fought in UFC 1, he would have lost quick. He was only 135 pounds. Sumo guy would have crushed him. Royce or Ken Shamrock would have beat him quick. I don't think so. Well, I do, in the sense that he probably would have been 60 years old at UFC 1. So yeah, having an old guy in there, probably. But the Sumo lost on that one. If I remember correctly, the kickboxer knocked him down, broke his hand on the guy's face, and was punching him with his bloody, pulpy stump for like a good 2 minutes until they finally called off the match. As far as would he beat Royce and them in BJJ, honestly, I think Bruce Lee would have probably studied Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu once he had dealt with the Gracies just once. Also, he most likely would have never entered the UFC anyway, because he absolutely hated tournaments. So we just finished number 5, professional societies, hobbyist groups, BJJ, MMA, those kind of things are part of it as well. 6, the study up on game. It doesn't matter how fit, how healthy, how successful, social, or interesting you are. Women, and talking to them into fucking you, is something different from all of that. If you don't know how to talk to girls in a sexual way, you're going to die a rich, super hot, very interesting virgin who doesn't have game. I love that line. You have to learn how to treat women like anybody else, become outcome independent, talk subtly sexually, touch in a non-awkward way, and escalate the situation to a sexual encounter. It's a learned skill, not something that just happens naturally, the way women tell you it does. For them, it just happens. For you, it's a practice skill. And making this happen for you is something that's completely independent of your looks, fitness, success, hobbies, and social skills. Having all that makes game a lot easier, which is why game comes in 6th on the list. But all that without game won't get you laid, and game without all that will make your life a lot harder than it needs to be. I think that's a wonderful way of putting the dynamic between game and looks and success. Again, a quick shout out there, link in the chat if you guys want to check it out. Troy's books on that. And then his last point, finally start going out every weekend or maybe one weeknight a week and approach women constantly. Same way you talk to strangers. Note how this is 7th on my list and not all that important. Women don't matter if you haven't done the first 6, and you can be happy and successful by just doing 1 and 6 and forgetting all about women. That's actually key. If you're not happy all out on your own with who you are and what you've done and what you're capable of, then you'll never land a worthwhile woman anyway. If you're physically fit or at least confident about your gym routine, healthy, well-rested, successful, socially not awkward, have hobbies and interests, and are at least decently versed in game, you finally have a decent chance of not being blown off by the average woman. As noted above, treat women like talking to strangers. Hey, that's perfect, one man way. There's the exact post that you needed to see. Treat women like strangers. Just talking to women and coming across like a non-awkward, non-loser puts you in the top 25% of men. Being subtly sexual and escalating via touch puts you in the top 20%, give or take. Not caring whether you're turned down and moving on to the next woman like the one who just pissed on you doesn't count, puts you in the top 15%. Being fit, successful, socially apt, and interesting on top of good game puts you in the top 10%. The top 10% gets laid every weekend. And if you don't believe me, ask Carl. Maybe not every single woman they approach, but by the end of the night, they'll have somebody lined up. But this comes after weeks or months of hard work and becoming worth a damn. The key is being happy without women. If you're fit, successful, socially apt, and in the possession of useful and interesting skills and hobbies, you should be able to have a decent life without women. Women would rather line up to be the gravy on your awesome life than the main course, featured on an otherwise empty plate of a loser. And I think this is a big point that the MGTOW community gets absolutely wrong about the relationship between red-pilled men and women. Red-pilled men understand, and it's not self-improvement. The 6 out of 7 things that are to prioritize above women, they're not so much self-improvement as they are markers of successful masculinity, I guess is the best way to put it. If you don't have your diet on point, if you don't have your workouts on point, if success is either here or at least coming financially, if you don't have interesting things you do other than work and sleep and eat and work out, if you don't have the ability to talk to a girl and make it known that you want to be sexual with her, if you're not able to touch people and have conversations with absolute strangers without fear and anxiety from approaching, then yeah, women aren't the most important thing in your life, nor should they be. But once you have all that stuff together, women become the wonderful lagging indicator of success. If you take nothing else from this podcast, I'd say take that. On this note, we're running on 8 minutes to the hour. We're going to shut this down at 11. Yes, there will be a Rule Zero today. And from what I understand, I believe it's on either John's channel or Rolo's channel. You guys are on Twitter right now, so you'll be able to check. You'll probably see that before me. I should have retweeted it by now, but whatever. On that note, we've gone through a bunch of wonderful critiques to the red pill by Archwinger, a couple of his addressing of some of the common critiques about being pussy beggars, about respecting women, about self-improvement or just gaming girls, putting things into perspective. And so this is one thing I like saying when guys call themselves red pill, shill courses, whatever. If they haven't done a basic understanding of some of the people that have come before, the content they put out, and the messages and the mental models that they've enacted in their lives and passed on to us as these things work for me, hope they work for you as well, that you don't really have a red-pilled guy. You have a clubhouse masculinity wannabe guy who wants to get in with the cool kids, and we're not the cool kids, I hate to tell you. And eventually just bilk you for money, I guess. And I don't have to tell you that. Also, $100 PayPal bounty to anybody who can take a photo and get me a head count of any convention that may be happening next week in Florida. I'm actually very curious about who's going to show up. Make it anonymous if you want. If not, I'll blur out the faces and that myself there. Having said that, if you actually wasted $2,500 on a ticket, then making 100 of that back for taking a photo isn't the worst use of your time. There, you can talk all you want. Well, let's just see. All this hullabaloo, what was it worth at the end of the day? Let's find out. I will end on this one, though. Quentin, greatest point ever. And I think he is the perfect example with this statement of why I say critics of the red pill take it seriously and literally. Or no, they don't take it seriously and they take it literally. Meanwhile, people within the red pill take it seriously, but don't take it literally. And he's right there. Old man game is having a conversation with somebody. And yes, he's right. All these things, if you take out the jargon, which is meant to be, it's meant to tap into things that emotionally resonate with men. That's why the sexual marketplace is often referred to as a battle place, the gender war. Oh, these are things that guys inherently understand and appeal to. So if you want to get a guy to understand the red pill, use these terms. But then once you break them down to what they actually are, you'll find these things are very, very simple and straightforward. Old man game is being able to open up a stranger and have a conversation. Game is just being socially adept and overtly sexual while allowing plausible deniability. I guess I can go through how many different mental models can I go through. Making yourself your mental point of origin just means developing a narcissistic level that's puts you within lower than the third standard deviation, but higher than the norm. Dark triad just means the elements of psychopathy that one can enact on their own, which is basically living in the moment. It's really the only one we can do because you don't have the brain damage to do it. The narcissism to build that second level of past the average on the bell curve there. And what was the third one? Narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellian. Machiavellian is just simply about being deliberate about your intentions on things and acting with the will to win. It's realpolitik for that. So, AJR, shout out to the fourth hour. Rouge's Daybang, Old Man Game. Yes. So we'll end on this one. Old Man Way, thank you for the final $5 super chat to close out the night. I have approached all the attractive girls I see daily, have turned down them by them all. Do you ever approach the same girl a second time? Yes, but I didn't mean to. In your case, it sounds like you live in a smaller place and you're eventually going to tap into everything there. So from your situation, it's really a logistics problem. Until you have a roadmap to move to a place where you can run into people that you haven't seen before on a regular basis, you're going to have to switch to more of a friendly category. So in this case, turned down by all the girls you see daily, you might actually have to just work on being socially adept and building up a social circle and then build social circle game. If you guys don't know, that's the process wherein you start building a reputation among a smaller community so that other people vouch for your skills. And very difficult to do. It usually requires a huge amount of time investment, and I find the time is almost always better spent moving to a place with a larger population or changing up your routine to where you run into people you don't normally see. So I know, and it honestly sounds like you've put yourself in a situation where, and willingly, and nobody's going to fault you for that, but you've put yourself into a situation where logistically everything becomes more difficult than it needs to be. If you're in a place where you actually cannot run into more people during your day, you either need to go someplace else, change up your routine, or lean more heavily on social media or travel. With the mom and the cancer thing, I would assume, I'm hoping she gets better, by the way. I hope this stuff goes into remission, but if it's one of those things that, you know, after a year of treatment, she will get better and you're able to have her on her own again, and you go back to your own thing, it might just be a case of sucking it up, making acquaintances with every girl you meet as opposed to trying to sleep with them, and then just riding out the wave. And then come month 12, when everything is back to normal and you can get back to doing your own thing without taking care of your parent, then moving forward and doing a lot of these more advanced strategies. But it's one of those things that's really good with a SWOT analysis. See what the obstacles are that are in the way of what's keeping you from doing what you want to do. And right now, it just sounds like it's a numbers game, logistics game, and a familial situation that's in your way. So, but on that note, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you very much for tuning in this long. You've had me run my mouth for 2 hours now on Archwinger, sexual strategy. As close as we can get to a unified philosophical theory on this one, but that's a topic for another day. On that note, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.